Greetings everyone, and thanks for subscribing to Divine Diplomacy. This is your weekly digest of orthopolitics updates. I've curated 3 stories offering insights into the ongoing dynamics between the church and politics in the Baltics, Russia and Greece. While the stories from Estonia and Greece address distinct issues, both highlight the impact of the church-state tug-of-war. The third story delves into the Russian Orthodox Church's suppression of voices critical of the Ukraine war. The first story is about the decision made in Estonia to expel the head of the Estonian Orthodox Church Moscow-Patriarchate from the country. Citing national security concerns, Estonia's officials have asked the head of the church under the Moscow Patriarchate, Metropolitan Evgeny, legal name Valery Reshetnikov, to leave the country by the 6th of February. The head of the church, who is a Russian citizen, has asked for an extension of his residence permit, which has been refused. The Estonian police clarified that Reshetnikov has no relatives in Estonia and that his current permit has been extended before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The decision not to extend or renew Metropolitan Evgeny's residence permit comes after a prolonged period of problematic conduct by the head of this church and voicing support for the Russian aggression on Ukraine. According to Estonian police, the decision not to extend his permit was made because of his actions as a representative of the Moscow Patriarchate, his public statements, and the effects these have on Estonia's internal security. While taking this decision, the police had also taken into account the role of the Patriarch Kirill of the Russian Orthodox Church in the legitimization of Putin's war in Ukraine, the statement says. Public officials, including the country's foreign minister, have stated that the church leader has been warned several times for his conduct and has not changed his problematic behavior. More precisely, representatives of Estonia's Ministry of Interior have met Metropolitan Evgeny on several occasions, asking him to stop the public support of Putin's actions in Ukraine. In the statement issued by the Estonian police, it is underlined that the decision targets only Metropolitan Evgeny and should not affect the church and the believers of the Estonian Orthodox Church Moscow Patriarchate. Country's interior minister has stated that there won't be any state interference in the election of the new head of the church. No details were given on the activities the head of the church has been involved in. Some media reported the increased calls from some political structures in Estonia for his removal from the position last January, when Metropolitan Evgeny wanted to deliver a joint service with a movement close to the Kremlin called KOS. Medusa reported that Metropolitan Evgeny had voiced his opinion against the war in Ukraine. He also disagreed with Kirill's position regarding the blanket forgiveness for the sins committed by the Russian soldiers. There are 2 Orthodox churches present in Estonia. According to the 2020 estimates, around 13.9% of Orthodox believers are affiliated with the church headed by Metropolitan Evgeny, the Estonian Orthodox Church Moscow Patriarchate, and 2.3% worship at the Estonian Apostolic Orthodox Church, which is an autonomous church under the Ecumenical Patriarchate. The second story is about the political turbulences in Greece over same-sex marriage and the reaction from the Orthodox Church there. While the Orthodox churches across Eastern Europe are battling with the effects of the war in Ukraine, the Orthodox churches in Southeast Europe are making the rounds by pushing anti-liberal agendas. In Greece, the Orthodox Church has emerged as one of the most significant opposing factors, discrediting the efforts of the country's Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis to pass a law that would allow same-sex marriage. Although most vocal, the Church is not the only voice of opposition. Few members of the ruling New Democracy and parties of the right have also shown discontent with the proposed changes. Members of the opposition and left Syriza party are expected to support the law. The leader of Syriza, Stefanos Kassalakis, met with the head of the Church in Greece earlier in the month. He urges members of parliament coming from his party to vote in favor of the legislation. Earlier this week, Archbishop Hieronymus called an extraordinary meeting of the Holy Synod to discuss the issue after many of its clerics started voicing opinions on the matter. On the 23rd of January, the Holy Synod decided that the Church of Greece was against same-sex marriage legislation. The Greek Church leader even suggested a possible referendum on the question, which was withdrawn shortly afterwards as it would only complicate the issue. The Church is expected to send a letter to all members of Parliament explaining its position soon, and another letter would be read to the believers at the beginning of February. Following the steps of the Church of Greece, the Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew also convened a synod in which it reiterated the position from the Council of Crete in 2016 on the matter, which underscored the importance of marriage being a union of man and a woman. The Church does not accept for its members unions of same or opposite sex couples and any other form of union apart from marriage. At the same time, the Ecumenical Patriarchate Synod conclusions mention that individuals within the Church who engage in alternative forms of union should be treated with pastoral responsibility and love in Christ. Parenting rights seem to be at the center of the storm. The Greek government argues that, as things are at the moment, children of same-sex couples are discriminated against as there is no legal protection for their rights. The legislation, which should be put forward in February, is supposed to address this. According to the government, the law will not allow same-sex couples to become parents through surrogacy. And the last story this week is about Alexei Uminsky, a well-known figure in the Russian Orthodox Church. It shows how the case against him is used in the Russian Orthodox Church to treat so-called unpatriotic voices. The story of Father Uminsky being at risk of defrocking took many Russian Orthodox believers by surprise, prompting a wave of mobilization against it and calling Patriarch Kirill to reverse the decision taken by the Russian Orthodox Church court. The decision calls for Uminsky to be expelled from holy orders for the refusal to read Kirill's prayer for Holy Rus. The escalation of the case puts a spotlight on Russian Orthodox churches dealing with unpatriotic voices within the Church who dare to oppose the Kremlin narrative, which is being sacralized by the first man of the Church, Patriarch Kirill. The news of Father Uminsky's removal came after a Russian Orthodox Church court decided on the 13th of January that Father Uminsky should be banned for violating his priestly oath. The case brought against him was initiated after he refused to read the prayer for Holy Rus, a compulsory text which distorts Putin's war in Ukraine and represents it as a war against Russia, at the same time calling for God's help and victory. The decision is sent for confirmation for Patriarch Kirill. Father Uminsky was not present at any of the court hearings and refused to comment on the decision. Father Uminsky was removed from the position of a chairman at the Church of the Life-Giving Holy Trinity in Moscow, where he worked and served for many years. The Russian papers have speculated that he would be replaced with the problematic figure Father Andrei Tkachov, who has a pro-war stance. There is a clear strategy in how the Russian Orthodox Church handles opposing views in the Church. Whether Kirill will pardon his so-called transgressions is a secondary matter. Going after a high-profile figure as Uminsky in the Russian Church is a signal sent across the country that no one can escape the tight control Kirill is trying to exert over his clergy. The discussed replacement with Kachev also means that rewards can come to those on board with Putin's ideology. This is not the first case of punishment against Russian Orthodox Church clergy who have opposed praying for the text issued by Patriarch Kirill. The difference with the Uminsky case is that he is prominent in Moscow and has a big following. His work with children's hospices and parents has been noted throughout. Several thousand parishioners have already signed a petition against the court's verdict. The petition says that the ban's effects would mean many families would be left without spiritual care.